The anti-Semitic threats targeting our Jewish community and community centers are horrible and are painful and a very sad reminder of the work that still must be done to root out hate and prejudice and evil.
All right, that was President Trump earlier today addressing the issue of anti-Semitism after nearly a dozen Jewish community centers all around the country received bomb threats yesterday. Now, the left has been quick to try and blame the president for the rise in these threats, but in their search for a new DNC chair, which will be selected on Saturday, well, the leading contender is Minnesota Congressman Keith Ellison. Ellison has a very controversial association with the leader of the Nation of Islam, and that is Louis Farrakhan. Now, in fact, he reportedly backed out of an interview with the New York Times back in November after being told he would be asked about this relationship with Farrakhan. And take a look at the headline from the New York Times article in December, quote, "Jewish groups and unions grow uneasy with Keith Ellison." Joining us now with reaction, the president of the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs, Dore Gold, and Fox News contributor and former Clinton pollster, Doug Schoen. Dore, I was very, very impressed. I had time with the Prime Minister, as you know, after he met with the President, and what he said publicly is what he told me privately, that there's never been a better supporter for Israel than this President in his lifetime. And that's how I see the relationship. He's been very clear. I think speaking out today is another example of it. What's your reaction?
Look, this is a very serious subject, anti-Semitism. And, you know, if we were in Europe right now, if we were in France or Germany, we'd have a number of possible suspects. We could have neo-Nazis. We could have Islamic radicals. We could have the far left. All three have been associated with hate crimes against Jews in Europe. One of the first things you've got to do is make sure you have enough manpower and enough people to get to the bottom of these acts, and then act accordingly.
Well, I agree totally with you. So this weekend in Detroit, Doug, Louis Farrakhan, who has an association with Keith Ellison, who may be the head of the DNC. Anyway, I want to disabuse the Jews today of the false claim that you are the chosen of God, that Israel or Palestine belongs to you. I want to disabuse you of that, and I'm going to tell you about your future. You think you have the power to frighten and dominate the peoples of the world? I'm here to announce the end of your time, Farrakhan said, slamming his hand on the podium.
That's horrific. I mean, I will be startled and ashamed of my party if Keith Ellison, who worked for a number of years and is yet, as I speak, to disavow the Reverend Louis Farrakhan, if he is elected DNC chairman. Dore Gold is speaking exactly right. We have the BDS movement where Europeans and many around the world are seeking to just delegitimize Israel by simply saying any products made in Israel cannot be purchased at all by anyone. This is a scary, scary time, and I'm glad the president spoke out. And I speak as a Democrat and as a Jew, and as someone who's passionate.
Well, I speak out as a passionate supporter. Ivanka Trump tweeted out last night, we must protect our houses of worship. I agree.
I agree.
And also, if you look at the latest FBI crime statistics, they show 56.8% of hate crimes were motivated by their offenders' anti-Jewish bias. You have a classmate saying Keith Ellison said the Jews want to oppress minorities all over the world.
I mean, this is horrific, Sean. I don't think this is a partisan issue. This isn't politics. This is standing up for what's right, reasonable, and responsible. Your interview with the Prime Minister made that very clear.
What is your reaction to that, Dore? Look, you've worked with people from both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democratic presidents. I don't think Israeli-American relations were any worse than under President Obama. Are you uncomfortable with the Democratic Party picking somebody like Keith Ellison and his controversial past?
Look, Keith Ellison doesn't have much to offer us, but let me just put it this way. I think we should avoid politicizing this issue. This is very serious. And therefore, of course, if somebody has associations with the Muslim Brotherhood or with Louis Farrakhan, that's a real problem. But fundamentally, I know everybody is tempted to politicize these issues. And it's a big mistake to go down that route. And I think what we have to do is root this out. Get to the bottom of it. Assign enough FBI agents. Find out who's behind it. By the way, this has been going on for a while. It's just now reaching levels that are getting a lot of press attention. I noticed there was a piece in the Washington Post by an Oppenheimer just a few days ago, on the 17th. And he wrote that he was citing the ADL statistics that the number of anti-Semitic incidents on United States campuses doubled in 2015. Nobody talked about that as far as I can recall. So we've got a big problem on our hands, and it's got to be tackled and not politicized.
I agree, but I don't think we can ignore this. When he was a third-year law student, he was responding to another student that said Louis Farrakhan was no Malcolm X. He defended Farrakhan against charges of racism. He said racism means conspiracy to subjugate and actual subjugation, and that means planned social, economic, political subjugation of whites. It cannot be intelligently argued that the Nation of Islam is doing this. In fact, blacks have no history of harming or subjecting whites as a class. And, you know, I'm sorry, and any organized for the Million Man March out of his community, you cannot ignore, you know, the white people. The God that teaches me tells me the white people are the skunk of the planet Earth, or that Judaism, that famous quote, gutter religion, and real Jews, and constant referring, you know, using anti-Semitic slurs.
Sean, if Keith Ellison becomes chairman of the DNC, it is a decided step backward.
Will you leave the Democratic Party?
I have to think strongly and seriously about it, because he represents everything that's antithetical to the way I live. He should disavow Farrakhan right now.
Dore Gold, good to see you, my friend, and good to see you, Doug.
Thank you.
And